with another very special guest at Different Drop HQ. I've got Charlie Seppel from Hickenbotham in McLaren Vale. Really, really exciting things happening with these wines. For those that don't know, I'll let Charlie in the background, but long story short, a vineyard with amazing pedigree, sourced some of the most famous wines in Australia, Grange, Eileen Hardy, Wilbur Angelus, and just in the last few years, new ownership and a lot of really interesting, cool things happening. So, mate, thanks very much for popping in. I know you've had a busy day hanging out with Julia Gillard and her little feet. Mate, what in a nutshell, I guess,
you might want to explain
that. Charlie was saying before that he flew up to Sydney this morning with Julia Gillard and commented on her small feet. But anyway, mate, in a nutshell, Hickenbotham Vineyard. What makes it so special? And what can you tell us about the wines?
Thanks, Tom.
No, you're welcome, mate.
For the record, on the Julia Gillard, that's to be edited. No, it's a pretty amazing vineyard, and one of those vineyards in McLaren Vale that a lot of people source fruit from, but not for an individual label. So, as you said, Penfolds were big heavy hitters along with Hardy's in the mid to late 90s.
Yep.
Roman from Clarendon Hills has been in there taking fruit out of there. It takes Grenache, Cabernet and Shiraz as well. And then the opportunity came along. Barbara Banky, our boss back in the United States, she gave the green light for Pete Fraser, the general manager in Australia for Jackson Wine Estates, to source out another icon vineyard. And Pete was having a bit of a look around in the Barossa, McLaren Vale, I think as far as Margaret River as well. And then, right on our doorstep was Hickenbotham. So he went along, knocked on the door, spoke to the family, and, they made an offer. And I guess at the end of 2011, early 2012, the family had made the move and we purchased the vineyard, which leads us into these wines. The first release for the vineyard.
2012 as well, guys, all 2012 vintage.
Yeah, 2012. So a really lucky year vintage to release the wines with. The 12 vintage is an incredible year for McLaren Vale. For the decade of 2010 forward, I guess it's probably just shadowed by 2010 in my opinion, but God bless wine, it's subjective. So some people might like 12 more than 10. But it's a great year. It's a strong year. It's a more broad-shouldered year for McLaren Vale. But I guess our advantage being in Clarendon is we've got aspects. We're a lot higher. We're only a short distance from Adelaide Hills, so we do get cooler climb flavours in our wine. But we still get a reasonably good tannin profile, especially in our Shiraz and our Cabernet.
And the thing that for me stands out with these wines, like they're powerful, concentrated wines, but they're elegant. There's no oak and alcohol smacking you in the face. It's all about the fruit and I guess the terroir of this really special vineyard. So Shiraz and Bordeaux varieties, Cabernet, Merlot, etc.
Yeah.
Guys, Merlot, the Shiraz is what we're drinking, classic McLaren Vale Shiraz, but without that big kind of vanilla milkshake sweet thing. Just beautiful wine. I think, 95 points?
95 from Halliday, 95 from Huon. 96.
Yeah.
Just recently. But it's a beautiful site. We in a previous role, I used to see this wine, and it used to be a component of the Eileen Hardy Shiraz. Yeah. And I guess its real bonus is it has a lot of finesse. It has quite a lot of elegance. It has weight, but it's not your typical blocky, bigger McLaren Vale sort of floor area, which is I guess it's what makes it unique.
Yeah. And the Cabernet I think is a remarkable wine. McLaren Vale Cabernet. Not really, to be honest, not really my thing that I've jumped at, but that is just a beautifully perfumed, structural wine for the long term, and then a very special release here. Is it Shiraz Cab or Cab Shiraz?
Cabernet Shiraz, 52-48. Yep. So there's 6 barrels of this wine made, and it was basically picked out of probably the best wines that we made or that we didn't think we made in the vintage on the blending table. Quite a long, arduous process, but a minute amount. And the best representation of the vineyard for that vintage.
A special one. Guys, we presented these wines at Wine Unleashed tasting last weekend, and they were hugely popular. They're wines for the cellar, for a special occasion. They're not made in huge quantities, but for me, it's great because it's an old vineyard with all this history, and Charlie and Chris Carpenter breathing new light into the site, and they're just magnificent wines, mate. So congratulations.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up. Cheers. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers.